Oh, what have we got here? A little final briefing session.
I think that happened before as well. That's just Ken Potter, the clerk of the course, giving our senior road taxers their final instructions before their first heat. So they'll be up next. It's senior road tax heat number 1.
And I will take you through the grid here. So it is going to be Stephen Napier on pole position, followed by Tristan Rennie, Declan Russell and Lucas Ellingham P4. Thomas Wood and Chris Miller in P6. Then it's John Knox, Gary Bird, Jack Lilly, Charlie Walsh, Shane Collinson and Les Taylor. Scott Smith, Ryan Garvey, Daniel Kell, our Teesside champion from 2020 in the senior road tax kart, is in 15th place. Then it's Tyler Jex, Reece Duthie and Andy Collinson making a return to the Teesside grid. James Wood, Alexander Mikos round out your top 20. Then it's Scott Lowther, Nathan Smith, Stephen Richardson and Stephen Horner. Emma Brown, Andrew Powell, Dougie Cowan, Zach Bolton, Adrian Smith and Keith Mason round out the top 30. Then it's Paul Swan, Tom Reith, Jai Oliver and Ashley Savage in 34th place. Now all of these times were set in the wet yesterday, full wet conditions. As you can see on the circuit, it is starting to dry out. Still no bona fide dry patches yet. Certainly not that I picked up on. And there are still very much some damp patches. And on the inside of turn 2, there's still puddles. So still not slicks yet. Not slicks yet, but will it be by, I think in fact it will be by the time we come round. Senior Pro Karts will be on slicks anyway. And in fact there are a few more no's coming in on our YouTube poll. Please comment in the stream. Keep your comments coming in. Keep the poll being clicked. Let's see what we can get. But it's 71-29 for yes, we will see slicks at some point today. And that's certainly the one that I'm going for. James, give me a click on the yes, please.
Oh, I don't think he can vote on his own poll. But
and here we go. We are underway here for Senior Road Tax Heat number 1. These will be the fastest karts you will see today. That's already Lucas Ellingham off 2 wheels on the grass as he comes through turn 2.
So that's P4 down to almost P12, I think, for Ellingham. And now he's going to have to go wide, but he's hard on the brakes and has the 199 machine sideways. He's going to slot back in, I think, into a roundabout. P7 is he when he comes through? He is.
And Ellingham with huge amounts of experience here, former junior road tax champion here in the Wilton Mill Kart Championship as well.
And current Wilton Mill Kart Club X30 champion from 2021 as well.
There you go, so it's going to be quick in these conditions as well.
Obviously we don't run X30 at Teesside, so he's switched to road tax for this weekend as we've got a driver off and trimming the grass. That's the 18, although when I say grass, it's very muddy out there in these wet conditions through winter. That's Scott Lowther in the 18 machine, so he's going to drop all the way down to the tail end of the field.
Yeah, and that's a real shame. So coming across the line for the first time, it's Napier from Rennie, Russell, Knox. Ellingham has made his way back up to P5 miraculously. Thomas Wood, Chris Miller, Charlie Walsh, Jack Lilly and Scott Smith round out your top 10.
So strong start despite having been on the grass for Ellingham, as once again everybody going towards the inside. We'll see them moving further out as the race goes on, and they're having to defend less into that heavy braking zone down into Christmas Corner. 8-minute races then in our heats as Tom points at the screen because there's an overtake happening.
There's also Dan Kell. I'm keeping my eye on Dan Kell in the 1 car, carrying the 1 because he's the champion. We've got the 70 kart of John Knox off the track at Parker, going around the outside, coming to a stop potentially. Have we got a broken track rod?
Yeah, I think he was trying to get back on, Tom, but as soon as he found some tarmac, I think it was fairly obvious that kart wasn't going any further in this race, as it looks like they're the 39 of Charlie Walsh goes down the inside, and still a lot of standing water, Tom, in that curb on the outside of Pit Bend.
And that will probably not dry out.
No,
all
I was
day.
looking at that in the early part of the before the race meeting started here today, and it was almost effectively you could see curb water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it will be like that, as I say, for the rest of the day because it's so deep in there. As we've got the 39 again of Charlie Walsh moving up the inside and making positions left, right and centre on this lap in particular. Still puddles at the inside of turn 2 as we saw earlier. Definitely not slick tyres yet, but the track is getting quicker and quicker.
Yeah, still got a yellow flag out, Tom, there, and I think that might be for that the 70 that was parked. They could have been dragging that out of the way. We're back green then from Marshall's post 7 onwards. As the two drivers there was taking huge chunks of curb. That's the 62 and the 39. So that's Wood and Walsh. That's the 70 of John Knox. We saw that retire about a lap ago. As Ellingham now right up onto the back of Tristan Rennie, the top 3 with the leader out at the front. Stephen Napier taking full advantage in the early part of this race by just moving away. The gap now 2.7 seconds, but Ellingham right on the back of Tristan Rennie. So as we saw with Ellingham, the current X30 champion here at
huge amounts of experience around Wilton Mill.
And a driver, Tom, we've seen before on the stream for Teesside.
And moved up into second place, just slightly off camera through Ashby Corner. Took the opposite line to what Rennie did. And as we said, that experience paying off.
We have seen Ellingham before on a Teesside stream because he did take part in the British 24-hour last year in the higher kart class nonetheless.
And was absolutely rapid.
Yeah, as part of the NRG team, our kind sponsors of the live stream. They race under NRG Global Power, and they'll be joining us as a sponsor for the season going into 2022 as well.
That's a point. I've just realised we haven't mentioned NRG Cycles so far today, so we should very much thank our sponsors for keeping this stream and keeping the the sponsorship coming in. It's very important to not just the championship, but to us as Alpha Live as well, that we are able to bring you these pictures and bring you our dulcet tones.
Of course, a little radiator lift there, Tom, on the way down there. When someone's getting a little bit too much temperature, but you see them fighting with that wheel, Tom. And the further you go down the pack, the wider the drivers seem to be going. You know, the front runners are definitely on the inside in towards Christmas, and they are having to.
That's Dan Kell.
Dan Kell has come into harm, and looks like there's another driver going very slowly there, and that could be what's caused that bottleneck down at Ashby's. Trying to figure out which driver that was going very slowly. That's is it the 8? It's the 9 of Chrissy Miller. No. Going very, very slowly. Now that car will have to pull that one off the line.
Ellingham bangs in the fastest lap of the race with a 54.2. Closes into 2 seconds off the back of Stephen Napier.
Yes,
3 minutes to go.
So Ryan Garvey there, Tom, go down the inside of what looked like Shane Collinson, and that is the 9 of Chrissy Miller, just dragging his own car out of the way.
And you can see him dropping down the timing order on the left-hand side of the screen. 2 different styles of number here as well. You'll also see everybody in the blue numbers on your timing column on your left-hand side is in the 162 class. Everybody in the green is 177 class. That's just a weight difference. That's all it is. So it's 162 kilos and 177 kilos. Separate classes, but still all running on the same grid.
Yeah, so in our 177 class, leading the way then in P20 overall, Stephen Horner from Stephen Richardson. Behind in 21st, then we've got Dougie Cowan completing the top 3 in 177. And Tom, that extra 15 kilo does make a huge amount of difference, doesn't it, in terms of weight and, you know, actual lap time as well. You probably have extra 15 kilo. You're looking at probably well over a second.
Yeah, at Teesside, we've seen it before. It makes a difference, 100% it makes a difference. But because of the fast straights, extremely fast corners at Teesside, it's not as prevalent as it is here, which is a lot more stop-start circuit where that weight difference is going to be much more prevalent, especially coming out where you need that bottom end of the engine, the torque curve to get you going. The extra 15 kilos makes a huge difference here.
Absolutely. Napier then continuing to lead, but Ellingham, probably one of the fastest drivers on track, although they were fairly even on that previous lap. We know Ellingham holds the fastest lap of the race so far. Gap is 2 seconds with 2 minutes remaining plus 1 lap on the timing here at Wilton Mill. It is, of course, the second round of the Teesside hosted Winter Series. We'll be back at Teesside at the end of March for round number 3. Entries for that are already open. And
Ellingham was not only fastest lap of the race on that lap, but a second quicker than Napier. So
sub 1 second now.
And in fact, here we are focusing on them now. So that is Ellingham in P2, Stephen Napier in P1. Coming down the hill into Ashby, and Ellingham is closing. That's not a 9/10 of a second anymore. I think we're going to be looking at about 0.3 by the end of the lap.
And they're going to get 2 laps as well, Tom, as well.
Yeah.
But the time they're doing 55s, 55 is already down at the top, so they're going to get 2 laps. Ellingham
was off track. Don't forget, at turn 1 and 2. At the start of the race, dropped down to around about P12 and is now sniffing for a victory. Is already on the back of Napier. I called it at 0.3 seconds. I thought it would be. It's half that. It's 0.141. He is right on the tail now as they're going to go up to Christmas corner. What line is Ellingham going to take? And what line is Napier going to take? He holds it into the middle of the circuit. Not full defensive line.
So Ellingham then, who's caught up onto the back of Napier at a fair rate of knots, now has to get past him. Hard on the brakes down into Ashby's. Can he get the kart stopped? He can, and Lucas Ellingham, with 1.5 laps remaining, moves into the lead. Stephen Napier, who's had it comfortable for the entire race thus far, now is down into second place. And can he stick with Lucas Ellingham? But already, Tom, Ellingham is moving away.
Yeah, he's got huge amounts of pace underneath him as Lucas Ellingham. As we said, massive experience around this circuit. Double champion, both in senior and in junior. And this will be his first foray into senior road tax, because as you said, David, that's exactly what we run here at Teesside. We don't run an X30 class, we run a road tax class. Bang the road tax engine on from JDR, and away he goes. Not made any difference at all, has it? He's away.
Not at all. But I mean,
clear.
Look, we saw this at the British 24, didn't we? When he spent most of the practice day just hacking round in a hire kart before the race. In fact, that he raced in the hire kart class as well. Is that it doesn't matter whether he's in a 4-stroke hire kart, whether he's in an X30, whether he's in a road tax. You know, ultimately, you pick the talent up, you put it into a different seat, and you still have it. Into the boot section, then we go. Lucas Ellingham, who started the race pretty much on the grass, going into the first 2 corners, will come round the final corner. Heat number 1 in senior road tax goes to the 199 of Lucas Ellingham. Fantastic victory, holds off Stephen Napier, who led most of the race. Tristan Rennie will complete the top 3. There he crosses the line. And then we'll see the rest of the top 10 come through, with Scott Smith getting past Thomas Wood on the last lap for 4th. So it's going to be Smith, Wood, Walsh, Russell, Lilly, Garvey and James Wood completing the top 10.
What I'd like to point out, David, just before we move on to our first senior pro kart heat of the day, they are all on slicks, as we said before. They're all going to be on slick tyres, and what's going to be music to their ears, I'm picking up tiny little patches of dry. Especially on the run down to Ashby, down to the Ashby hairpin, downhill in that heat that we've just watched, there are a couple of very light patches just starting to appear.
A couple of updates, Tom, out of the Minimax race that preceded the juniors and seniors that we've seen. 5-second penalties applied to Charlie Domingos, Jake Flewitt, Jack Thompson, Devon Nolan, Joseph Murphy, Ollie Paul, Freddie Housley and Charlie Vary. So they've all picked up 5-second penalties for front fairings.